She danced barefoot in the pouring rain, her movements wild, free, and full of a joy that didn't match the torn clothes she wore or the cold water soaking her skin. From the tinted window of a sleek black limousine, a boy watched her. His eyes wide with a mix of curiosity and something deeper, a flicker of hope. He was paralyzed from the waist down, trapped inside a world of silence and stillness. Neither of them knew it yet, but this single moment, this dance in the rain, was about to change both of their lives forever. Tiana was just 14 years old, a bright-spirited African-American girl who had already seen more hardship than most people face in a lifetime. She had once known the warmth of a home, the comfort of a mother's embrace. But that all changed when her mother disappeared, lost to the grip of addiction, slipping away like smoke through her fingers. With no family left, no safe place to call home, Tiana found herself alone on the unforgiving streets. The cold nights bit through her thin jacket, and the days blurred into one another, a constant battle just to survive. Yet despite everything, there was one thing that kept her spirit alive: dance. Every morning before the city woke, Tiana would find a quiet spot, a cracked sidewalk, an empty parking lot, and dance. Her feet bare against the rough ground, her body moving to the rhythm only she could hear. It was her escape, her language when words failed, her way to feel alive when the world around her felt dead. She danced with all the hope and pain inside her, a silent story told through every step, every twirl, every leap. It was a beautiful defiance against her harsh reality, a reminder that even in darkness, light could be found. Meanwhile, across the city, in a world so far removed from Tiana's, lived Noah Bennett. At 13 years old, he was the only son of Richard. Bennett, a billionaire known for his ruthless business empire and icy demeanor. Noah's life was the exact opposite of Tiana's, filled with luxury and privilege, but even wealth couldn't protect him from tragedy. A devastating car accident had left Noah paralyzed from the waist down. Once a vibrant boy who loved to run and play, he was now confined to a wheelchair, trapped inside a body that refused to obey. The accident didn't just steal his mobility, it stole his spirit. In the sprawling Bennett mansion, surrounded by cold marble walls and endless riches, Noah felt more alone than ever. His father's success meant little in a house filled with silence and sadness. He sank into a deep depression, withdrawing from the world and the people around him. School felt like a distant memory, and friends were strangers he no longer knew how to reach. Noah's days became a cycle of loneliness, framed by the wheels of his chair and the quiet hum of the mansion. He longed for something, anything, that could pull him out of his isolation, but hope seemed out of reach. Two lives worlds apart, both marked by loss and pain. One danced with hope in the rain, the other sat silently watching from behind tinted glass. Neither could have imagined that fate was already weaving their stories together. On a rainy day, on a cracked sidewalk, where a barefoot girl danced like her life depended on it. One gloomy afternoon, as the rain fell softly over the city streets, Noah sat quietly in the back of his father's limousine. The world outside seemed distant, gray and motionless, until something caught his eye. Through the streaked window, he saw her. A barefoot girl dancing with fierce joy, spinning and leaping on the wet pavement, as if she was the only person alive in the world. Noah's breath caught. For the first time in weeks, something stirred inside him, a spark of emotion he hadn't felt since before the accident. He watched, captivated by the girl's fearless movement, the way her body told stories his words never could. Despite the cold that crept up his spine, despite the weight of his wheelchair and the barriers that kept him from running, Noah felt an urgent pull to see her again. The next day he asked his driver to bring him back to that very street, and the day after that. And every day following, no matter the weather or his own doubts. Each time he sat silently, watching Tiana dance, her spirit unbroken by the harshness around her. But with every visit, his fascination grew into something deeper, an aching hope that maybe, through her dance, he could find a way back to life. Yet beneath that hope, a storm brewed inside Noah. His disability reminded him every second of what he had lost. The walls of his mansion felt heavier than ever, and the loneliness pressed down harder. How could a girl from the streets, so full of life, bridge the gap between their two worlds? How could he reach out when he felt so trapped? The struggle was no longer just physical. It was a battle within his heart, between fear and hope, despair and courage. But Noah was determined. Something about that dancing girl was pulling him forward, and he refused to look away. Noah couldn't stop thinking about Tiana's dance. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her spinning in the rain, her bare feet tapping a rhythm on the cracked pavement. But he knew watching her from a distance wasn't enough. He needed to do more. He wanted to be part of that world, even if only for a moment. One afternoon, determined, Noah asked his driver to bring a small portable speaker with him. He loaded it with music, a mix of old-school soul and hip-hop, the kind of tunes that Tiana might dance to. It was the first time in months that he had felt anything close to excitement. When they arrived, Tiana was there, stretching her arms, preparing to dance as the sun peeked through the clouds. Noah took a deep breath, then wheeled himself slowly toward her, the gravel crunching softly under the limousine's tires. Tiana froze, surprised to see a boy in a wheelchair approaching her. She wiped the sweat from her brow and looked up at him, curiosity flickering in her eyes. "I brought some music," Noah said quietly, holding up the speaker. His voice was soft, unsure, but sincere. Tiana hesitated. "You want to dance?" Noah nodded, a shy smile breaking through. "Yeah. I may not be able to stand, but I can still move. I want to try." For a moment, Tiana just stared. Then, with a gentle laugh, she said, "All right, let's see what you've got." They found a small patch of concrete beside the street, enough room for Noah's wheelchair and for Tiana to move freely. Noah pressed play, and the first beats of the music filled the air. At first it was awkward. Tiana danced around Noah, trying not to step on his wheels. Noah tried to match her rhythm, turning and swaying his upper body as best he could. Neither was sure how this would work, but something incredible was happening. Gradually, their movements began to sync. Tiana lowered herself to the ground, reaching out to Noah's hands. Noah responded by spinning his chair in time with her steps. Their laughter mingled with the music, filling the empty street with warmth and life. "You're a natural," Tiana said, eyes shining. "No, you are," Noah replied, his voice steady, full of admiration. As the song played on, the awkwardness melted away, replaced by a beautiful connection neither had expected. They weren't just two strangers anymore. They were partners in a dance that spoke louder than words, a dance of hope, of friendship, of healing. In that moment, the city around them disappeared. The cold rain, the cracked sidewalks, and the walls that separated their worlds all faded into nothingness. Noah realized that even in his wheelchair he could still experience freedom, and Tiana felt for the first time in a long while that someone saw her, not as a homeless girl, but as what started as two strangers sharing a dance soon became something neither of them could have ever predicted. Day after day, Noah and Tiana met on that cracked, rain-soaked street. Their dance became their ritual, a fragile thread connecting two very different worlds. Noah's confidence grew with each spin of his wheelchair, and Tiana's smile became brighter, her steps more assured. Together they crafted a language beyond words, a story told through movement and music. But the city never stays silent for long. One afternoon, a passerby stopped, pulled out their phone, and quietly began filming the unlikely pair. Two young, souls united by a dance that radiated hope and resilience. The video was raw, unpolished, but its power was undeniable. Within hours, the clip exploded across social media. "Paralyzed rich kid dances with homeless girl" became the headline. On countless platforms, millions watched, shared, and commented, drawn to the pure humanity of the moment. People were captivated by the contrast. The boy born into unimaginable wealth, confined by his body, and the homeless girl whose only possession was her passion. Their dance wasn't just movement, it was a symbol of breaking barriers, of finding light in darkness. For Tiana, the attention was overwhelming. She had spent years invisible to the world, unnoticed and forgotten. Now strangers were cheering her on, offering words of encouragement and even donations to help her off the streets. But more than that, she felt seen, really seen for the first time. Noah too was swept up in the whirlwind. The boy who had felt so alone suddenly found his story shared and celebrated. Messages flooded in from people inspired by his courage and determination, but the most profound reaction came from one man, Richard Bennett, Noah's father. Richard was a titan in the business world, known for his cold, calculating nature. He had spent years building an empire, but in the process he had lost touch with the boy who needed him most. When Richard saw the video, something inside him shifted. At first there was disbelief. How had his son, isolated in their massive mansion, connected with a homeless girl on the streets? How had he managed to find joy again when Richard himself had struggled to reach him? As he watched the dance, the laughter, the connection, the unspoken bond, Richard felt a lump form in his throat. It was a mixture of pride and regret. Pride that Noah had found someone who could reach him. Regret for the years lost, the silence between them. He called Noah immediately, but the conversation was difficult. Noah was cautious, protective of this new world he'd found with Tiana. He didn't want his father's wealth or influence to taint the pure joy he'd discovered. But Richard was persistent. He knew that this girl, this dancer, had done what he couldn't. She had broken through the walls around his son's heart. Richard decided then and there to meet Tiana, to understand how she had managed to do what so many couldn't. In the days that followed, the media frenzy grew. Interviews with Tiana and Noah were scheduled, but both remained humble, focused only on the dance that had changed everything. Their story became more than just a viral video. It was a testament to resilience, to the unexpected ways human connection can heal even the deepest wounds. But not everyone was happy. There were whispers, critics questioning the motives, skeptics doubting the authenticity of their friendship. Some saw it as a staged spectacle, others as a fleeting moment in a world hungry for feel-good stories. Tiana felt the weight of judgment. She struggled to stay grounded amid the attention, fearing she might lose the simplicity of what she and Noah had built. Noah, too, wrestled with the pressure. The boy who once wanted only to watch from a distance now found himself thrust into the spotlight. He worried that the miracle they'd created might slip through their fingers. And yet, through it all, they held on to their dance, their sanctuary. The streets where they first met were no longer just a place of survival and struggle. They had become a stage for something extraordinary. As their story reached millions, the bond between Tiana and Noah only deepened. They were no longer just a homeless girl and a paralyzed boy. They were a symbol of hope, a reminder that sometimes the most unlikely connections can change lives forever. Richard Bennett's world was made of boardrooms and skyscrapers, luxury cars and endless meetings. But on this day, he found himself on a quiet, cracked city street, a world so far removed from his own that it felt almost unreal. He parked his sleek black limousine and stepped out, his expensive shoes clicking against the uneven pavement. He hadn't been here before, never imagined he would come here. But the video of his son dancing with the homeless girl had changed everything. It had pierced the walls around his heart and made him realize what truly mattered. As he looked around, he saw Tiana, her dark curls pulled back, her eyes bright despite the hardship she carried. She was stretching, preparing to dance as usual, unaware that the man approaching her was the father of the boy she had brought back to life. "Tiana?" Richard's voice was gentle, cautious. She looked up, startled, then studied the man in the tailored suit with a mix of suspicion and curiosity. "Can I talk to you for a moment?" he asked, stepping closer. Tiana hesitated, then nodded. They moved to the side of the street, away from the gathering crowd that had begun to form. "I want to thank you," Richard said quietly, his eyes sincere. "You didn't just dance with my son. You reached him in a way I never could. For that, I'm truly grateful." Tiana's lips pressed into a thin line. "I didn't do it for you or your son," she said firmly. "I just wanted to dance." Richard smiled softly. "But you gave Noah something priceless, hope." There was a long pause, the weight of those words hanging between them. "I want to help you, Tiana," Richard said finally. "I want to offer you a safe home, a fresh start, somewhere you belong." Tiana's eyes widened. "I don't belong in that world," she said, voice trembling. "I've lived on the streets my whole life. I'm not like you or your family." Richard shook his head, his expression warm but resolute. "This isn't about pity, it's about family. Noah and I want you with us, not because you need saving, but because you deserve love and belonging." Tiana looked down, the flood of emotions too much to contain. Fear, hope, disbelief, all mixing in a storm inside her heart. "I don't know how to live like that," she whispered. "I'm scared." Richard took a step closer, his voice softening. "No one expects you to change overnight. We'll be here every step of the way. You're not alone anymore." At that moment, Noah appeared, wheeling himself beside them, a shy smile on his face. "Tiana," he said quietly, "I want you to be part of my world, and I want to be part of yours." Tears welled up in Tiana's eyes. She looked at Noah, then at Richard, and for the first time in years felt the possibility of a new life, one filled with love, hope, and a family she never thought she'd have. The rain began to fall again, but this time it felt different. It was no longer a symbol of hardship. It was cleansing, a baptism into a new beginning. As the three of them stood together in that moment, the city around them seemed to hold its breath, witnessing the miracle that had unfolded from a simple dance. Tiana finally smiled, a smile full of promise, courage, and the unspoken vow that she would never stop dancing. Tiana's world changed in ways she had never imagined possible. A few days after Richard Bennett's heartfelt offer, she stepped cautiously through the grand doors of the Bennett estate. The house was enormous. Light flooded every room, walls adorned with expensive art and family photos. It was the complete opposite of the streets she had called home. For a moment she felt overwhelmed, like a small boat drifting into an unfamiliar ocean, but the warmth she felt from Noah and Richard anchored her. Noah's smile when he saw her that first morning was the kind of welcome she had always yearned for but never received. "We're going to figure this out together," he said simply. At first the routine was difficult. Tiana had to adjust to the schedules, the quiet hallways, the rules. She started attending the local school, something that had seemed impossible just weeks before. Her classmates were curious about the girl who had come from nowhere, but Tiana didn't mind. She kept dancing every morning, every evening, letting the music and movement guide her through the new world she was building. Her dancing, once a lonely ritual in the rain, became a bridge between her past and future. Noah and Tiana began practicing together regularly. Their bond deepened beyond words, rooted in the language of rhythm and trust. They found joy in the simple act of moving together, the way Noah maneuvered his wheelchair in sync with Tiana's graceful spins, the smiles they exchanged when a step landed perfectly. Their story caught the attention of the community. Local events invited them to perform, fundraisers for homeless shelters, school assemblies about overcoming adversity, even a city festival that celebrated diversity and resilience. With each performance, they inspired hundreds, reminding people that hope can blossom anywhere, even from the hardest places. Through their dancing, Tiana and Noah became symbols of transformation. For Noah, the emotional healing sparked a physical one as well. Doctors noticed changes in his strength and determination. With renewed motivation, he began attending physical therapy sessions with a new vigor. The progress was slow, but the hope was powerful. Richard watched with a mixture of pride and awe as his son's spirit rekindled. Noah was no longer the withdrawn boy confined by his wheelchair. He was growing stronger, more confident, eager to face the future. Tiana, too, found something she had been missing for years, a family. She wasn't just a guest or a charity case. She was part of the Bennetts now. Richard made sure she had everything she needed, a place to call her own, books for school, and endless encouragement. But the greatest gift was the love that surrounded her. One evening, as they practiced anew, routine in the spacious living room, Noah paused and looked at Tiana with gratitude. "You saved me," he said quietly. Tiana shook her head, eyes shining. "No, you saved me too." Their journey wasn't just about dance or healing. It was about two lost souls finding each other and building a family where none existed before. The road ahead wasn't without challenges. There were tough days when the past seemed to creep back, when fears and doubts whispered too loudly. But together they faced every obstacle, their bond growing stronger with each step. And as the seasons changed, so did their lives. From the cold streets to bright stages, from silence to song. Tiana and Noah proved that miracles aren't just moments, they're journeys. Their dance continues, a testament to hope, resilience, and the power of human connection. Because sometimes, all it takes is one step, one act of kindness, one shared moment to change everything. Years passed, but the bond between Tiana and Noah only grew stronger. Inspired by her own journey from hardship to hope, Tiana founded a non-profit organization dedicated to homeless and at-risk youth. Her mission was clear: to give others the same lifeline she had found through dance and compassion. Noah stood right beside her, not just as a friend, but as a passionate advocate. Despite his physical challenges, he used his voice to raise awareness about disability, homelessness, and the power of connection. Together, they hosted workshops, community events, and dance performances that brought people from all walks of life together. Their non-profit became a beacon of hope, a place where young people could find safety, encouragement, and a chance to express themselves through movement. But beyond the public success, their friendship remained the heart of it all. They still danced together, sometimes in studios, sometimes on city streets, always reminding each other of where they came from and how far they'd come. Every step, every spin was a celebration of resilience and love. Their miracle had started with one moment, one dance shared between a homeless girl and a wheelchair-bound boy. And from that simple act, a lifetime of change and inspiration had blossomed. They proved that sometimes the smallest gestures have the greatest power to transform lives, and that true family is built on kindness, courage, and connection.